Welcome to a video on the month of Cheshvan. We'll be looking in this video at the biblical, the historical, as well as the astrological and Kabbalistic significance of this month of the Hebrew calendar, and what it means for us practically, how we can prepare ourselves for the month, and what to understand what is coming up in the coming month. Okay, so starting with the biblical and traditional significance of the month. In the Torah, this month is known as the 8th month, and the counting of the months begins from the month of Nisan, or Aries, astrologically. This is because we count from the time that the Jews left Egypt, which was in the month of Nisan, or the spring month, and God commands Moses in the Torah and says that you shall count from this month as the first month of the year. So the counting of the months begins from the month of Nisan, which is around February, March, or April, that sort of period, that month, that area of the months, and is when Passover or Pesach is traditionally celebrated. And 7 months from then is the month of the high holidays, the Rosh Hashanah, the New Year, is celebrated on the first day of the 7th month, and then Yom Kippur 10 days later, and the final celebrations of Sukkot, the festival of the tabernacles, is celebrated at the end of the 7th month, and the 8th month is then the month that we're in now, the month that comes after. And in biblical Hebrew, then the other name for this month is Chodesh Bul, the month of Bul, where Bul refers to the word Yevul, or produce, and this was the month in which ploughing and planting would traditionally begin in the land of Israel. The word Bul is also related to the word Mabul, which means flood. There is always plenty of rain in this month in Israel, and this is why another name for this month is Mar Cheshvan, where Mar in Aramaic means a drop of water. Cheshvan is also an Aramaic term, an Aramaic name. The Hebrew months were given Aramaic names after the exile in Babylon. One of the reasons is we were, as a nation, we were purifying and elevating the sparks that were captured in Babylon at the time of the Tower of Babel. So one way of doing that is incorporating the Babylonian Aramaic names of months into our calendar, to the Hebrew calendar. Another thing that is significant about this month is our sages say that the flood of Noah actually started in this month. And another reason for the term Mar Cheshvan is because the word Mar in Hebrew actually means bitter, and it is actually traditionally known as a month which has no festivals and celebrations in this month. It is empty of any form of festival or holiday, and historically many tragedies occurred in this month. So, as we said, the flood of Noah actually began in Cheshvan, and Hashem destroyed the whole world due to the extreme corruption of mankind. Another tragedy which occurred in this month is that King Yeravam, or King Jeroboam, started a new cult by building 2 temples which housed golden carved idols within them. This account is actually given in the Book of Kings. This is during just after when the Davidic throne was established in Jerusalem. Jeroboam wanted to attract the people in his kingdom to celebrate the 3 traditional Jewish festivals of Passover, Pesach, Shavuot, the Feast of Weeks, and Sukkot, the Feast of Tabernacles, which were traditionally pilgrimage festivals to the Holy Temple in Jerusalem. And instead he wanted to divert people to his new cultic temples and draw them away from the Holy Temple in Jerusalem, in order to bring people in and make his divided new kingdom of the northern kingdom a success. And due to his popularity, he was actually able to move the entire holiday of Sukkot, the Feast of Tabernacles, to the 15th of Cheshvan, rather than the 15th of Tishrei, when it's traditionally celebrated, and according to the Torah it should be celebrated. He moved the festival to the month of Cheshvan, and eventually the 10 tribes forgot about Jerusalem and the Beit HaMikdash, and this was actually one of the causes of the disappearance of the 10 tribes 300 years later. This is actually a photograph of the remnants of one of the temples, the ruined temples of Jeroboam, which would have housed these golden calves. In this month, another tragedy is that the children of Zedekiah, Tzidkiyahu, were actually slaughtered in front of him, and he was blinded by Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, who later ended up destroying the Beit HaMikdash, the Holy Temple in Jerusalem. The month of Cheshvan is known as is significant for the matriarch Rachel Imenu, passed away on the 11th of Cheshvan and was actually buried on the road to Bethlehem. She was not buried with the rest of the patriarchs and matriarchs at the cave of Chevron, which is the picture you see on the left, but rather she was buried at the exact spot that she died, which is on the road to Hebron. This is because she knew through prophecy that her descendants would eventually pass by her grave on the way to their exile, and she would weep and seek mercy for them. As the famous verse in Jeremiah says, Rachel cries for her children, she refuses to be consoled for her children, for they are no longer living in the land of Israel. The picture on the right is an image of the tomb of Rachel in Bethlehem. Another tragedy which occurred on the 17th of Cheshvan is Kristallnacht, which was a night of anti-Semitic terror and horror on the 9th of November 1938, where members of the Nazi Party as well as the German middle class went out to beat Jews, loot and destroy Jewish shops and possessions, and burned hundreds of synagogues. This night was the beginning of what became to be known as the Holocaust, the destruction of European Jewry. On a more positive note, however, the construction of the Temple of Solomon was completed in this month, as is explained in 1 Kings 6:38. The Midrash explains that the third temple will be rededicated in this month also. So, now the Kabbalistic significance of the month. According to the Sefer Yetzirah, which is a book of formation, authored by Abraham the Patriarch, the Hebrew months are formed by letters of the Hebrew alphabet. As we know in Kabbalah, the entire world is formed and sustained through the energy through the Hebrew alphabet, and each month is also formed and has a corresponding letter of the Hebrew alphabet which governs it. And each month is governed also by a planet, which itself was created by a Hebrew letter. And the Kabbalists detail how each month is related to a specific sense, bodily sense, and the holy Ari, Rabbi Isaac Lurie of Tzfat, attributes each month to one of the 12 biblical tribes of Israel. So, in the month of Cheshvan, the corresponding sign of the zodiac is Akrav, or Scorpio. Its element is water. It is governed by the planet Mars. And the letter which created and governs that planet of Mars is the Daled. And the letter which governs this month is Nun. The tribe which this month relates to is the tribe of Menashe, and it is governed and relates to the sense of smell. So, a deeper look at this month. According to the Yalkut Shimoni, which is a compilation of midrashim, the Hebrew name for the month Bul is from the word for flood, Mabul, except the word mem is missing, is removed at the beginning. This is because the letter mem has the numerical value of 40, and it indicates that the flood lasted for 40 days, beginning on the 17th of Cheshvan until the 27th of Kislev. So the indication is to the Mabul, the flood. And it lasted a period of 40 days. Now, each year after the flood, at that same period of time, the world felt the residual catastrophic effects of the flood, and people would naturally feel in a sense of a state of panic. And only after the dedication of the Temple of Solomon, once Solomon had formed and built the temple, which was in the month of Cheshvan, these residual catastrophes stopped. Now, we said that the letter which governs and relates to this month is Nun, and Nun has the numerical value of 50. It also relates to the aspect of Nephilah, which itself is related to the 50 gates of impurity. The word Nephilah in Hebrew means to fall. So, in the Ashrei prayer, which is said by Jews 3 times a day, the Ashrei was actually formed by King David and is an acrostic of the Hebrew letters. Each verse of the Ashrei begins with one of the Hebrew letters, and it's ordered in alphabetic order to the Hebrew alphabet. Now, every single letter of the alphabet is included in the Ashrei at the very beginning, the very beginning letter, except for the letter Nun, which corresponds to Nephilah, falling. And our sages explain that by reciting the Ashrei prayer, you are saved from falling into the 50 gates of impurity, of course. However, on the side of the 50 gates of holiness, which was achieved by the children of Israel in the time of the exit of the redemption from Egypt, we have the 49 days of the Omer from Pesach, from Passover, until Shavuot, the receiving of the Torah. These relate to the corresponding gates of holiness, whereas in Egypt we were, of course, going into the gates of impurity and unholiness. And the neshama, the soul, is sourced in the gates of holiness. Neshama is also related to the nun, and nun is 50, and therefore its correspondence to the 50 gates is made. Now the word neshama is very similar to the word neshima, the word for breath in Hebrew, where Hashem blew the breath of life into Adam's nose. Neshima, nishmat chaim. This of course links with a sense of smell, which was of course the sense of this month. And the sense of smell is actually considered the most spiritual of our senses, as the neshama derives its sustenance directly from it. And at the Havdalah ceremony, we take the pleasant smelling spice. We make the blessing on the wine, and on the spice, we smell the spice and make a blessing on it, and the blessing on fire. Now the reason we take the spice is in order to strengthen the neshama, in order to face the week from the blessed realm of Shabbat, as we are descending from this state of sublime union with God on Shabbat. We're coming back into the mundane week. We need a boost, a spiritual boost, to be able to face it, and that's the reason of smelling the spice at the time of Havdalah. The sense of smell and the neshama is intimately connected to the tribe of Menashe. Right? If you rearrange the letters of Menashe, you get the word neshama, the word for soul in Hebrew. Now, through the course of Jewish history, there were recurrent decrees that resulted in the confiscation of Jewish property by their host countries during this month. Rav Menachem of Riminov, the early Hasidic master, says the original cause of these decrees was a revolt on part of the Jewish people against the sovereignty of the Davidic throne, when many tribes accepted the kingdom of Jeroboam, as we explained earlier, that during his revolt against the Davidic dynasty, he caused many of the tribes to deviate from the regular pilgrimage during the 3 holy festivals in Judaism. And during Cheshvan, this month, Jeroboam created a holiday for his kingdom, the new holiday of Sukkot, in order to lure the Jews away from the pilgrimage to Jerusalem. Now, the source of Yeroboam's revolt was envy and baseless hatred, and these sins eventually brought about the destruction of the Holy Temple. And the rectification for this sin will result in the rebuilding of the 3rd Holy Temple and the final temple, and its inauguration will occur during the month of Cheshvan, as is explained in the Midrash. Okay, and moving to the astrological significance of the month. The planet Mars is associated with this month, as we explained earlier, and it relates to the principle of harsh judgment. The judgment visited upon the world by the flood arose as a result of the world's misuse of the power of desire, which is rooted in the element of water. And this corruption of the water element brought about the divine retribution by that very element of water. According to astrology, one born under the influence of the sign of Scorpio has an extremely powerful emotional sensitivity and an equally powerful natural inclination, bodily inclination. These features, if not used properly, may lead one to the depths of depravity. However, on the positive side, a person with such powerful sensitivities has the ability to penetrate directly into the deepest appreciation of values. And if one's will is so directed, one may achieve a deep understanding of Torah in this month. So, the avoda, what does it mean for us? Our spiritual work, our avoda in this month, relates to our full acceptance of the kingship of heaven revealed in the Torah, the yoke of the kingdom of heaven, right? Which is revealed in the laws and the commandments of the Torah. And this calls for an appreciation of the awesomeness of heaven, Yirat Shamayim, to see how powerful and great Hashem is. This is, of course, achieved through contemplative means. The Rambam explains how we have to go and see how great nature is and the world and the universe in order to appreciate how lowly we are in comparison to the greatness of Hashem. And this is symbolized by the letter Nun, which points to the 50 gates of purity, or its opposite, Chas v'Shalom, if we don't have the right Yira. And through proper Yirat Shamayim, one may be delivered from the evil and the destructiveness which is associated with this month.